So, 7th thing you should never do when you're traveling in Poland. And it's a travel season, you know, everyone traveling and exploring, going to different places. And you know, sometimes some people, they just skip to explore a very underrated place like Poland. Well, let's say if you have decided to explore Poland, maybe you've come across on one of my videos and you're like, you know what, I'm really interested, I would like to know more, I would like to see more about that place. Then I would say definitely this video is just for you, right? So 7 things when you're in Poland you should never do when you're there. So the number 1 thing I'll say is, when you're there, if you're a person of color, do not assume every single Polish people are racist. Don't do that, please. Don't play the race card, don't play the victim card. You know, I understand Poland is let's say it's an homogenous society, so the vast array of people there, they're white, you know, and you're going to stick out, you're going to stood out a lot, so you just have to, let's say, put the effort trying to learn 1 or 2 things about the culture, maybe learn 1 or 2 words in the language. It's a very difficult language, but I'll tell you what, don't assume all Polish people are racist. And then maybe when you go there, you might not see certain people are not smiling. And this also leads me to my 2nd reason why you should not do this in Poland. You know, when you're in Poland, also I'll say, when you're there, don't quickly jump into conclusion and say, you know what, the people there are not, let's say, friendly. They don't want you there because they don't smile. Yeah, Polish people, they've got that, let's say, a bit of a grumpy face, you know, when you see them, they're walking. A lot of them, the vast array of them, they keep to themselves, right? But you'll be amazed, I mean, honestly, if you're smiling, you have a very approachable face, you know, and then chances are, you'll see someone will come up to you, they'll ask you if they can take your photo, right? And that happened to me when I was in Toruń, when I was in, I said Toruń, I sound like French, when I was in Toruń, when I was in Gdańsk, and also in Krakow as well. You know, people want to take photo of me, or they ask me to take photo of them as well, you know, because I'm smiling. And also I try to initiate some contact, try to ask them for direction. Especially this experience, just one experience that stood out the most to me when I was in Krakow, one of the most exciting places in Poland. I think will easily be the best city in Poland. It's so vibrant, so many things to do and see, it's very colourful, rich culture, a lot of things. I mean, honestly, it's really, really beautiful there. So one night I was getting a kebab, a very delicious kebab. It's called Alibaba kebab, fantastic. I would highly recommend you go and try that kebab. I think ends-wise I'm freaking chubby because let's face it, when I want to come towards food and kebab, I'm all the way in, right? So I saw this gorgeous girl, she wasn't smiling, but I approached her and I was like, you know what, I like your boots. And then she was smiling and all that, right? And I was like, oh, well, I thought she's going to give me an attitude, but it's totally different. She was totally cool with it. I took her photo. And the boots, I like the boots. I know it's quite creepy, isn't it, trying to move in that kind of way, but it actually works, you know. So basically, and then she was so open and cool, and then I even took a photo of her as well, lovely smile. And then basically, and what can I say, man, it's like, it's all down to the way you approach them. And yeah, but I did have I got an Instagram, I say hi sometimes to her. Very, very cool and gorgeous girl. So it's all about down to you, man. So how you initiate, I think you just have to start the conversation. I think the reason why Polish people don't smile that often, maybe if you're a foreigner, maybe they're quite scared of the language barrier. I think that's where it can be a little bit scary for them, for some of them, like to speak in English, because the language is quite difficult, and for them learning English is also quite difficult for them as well. So another thing I'll say is, when you're in Poland, never to do, I'll say basically, do not jaywalk. Jaywalking is like when you don't wait for the green man to give you the signal to cross, and if you do that, basically it can be fine. The reason why I'll say don't do it is because Poland roads are very complex in some way, you know. They have the tram, the buses, you know, what is it again? The taxis, and you name it, right? It's a very busy street, you know. So if you're going to jaywalk, especially in major cities like Warsaw and Krakow and Toruń, what is it? Why am I keep saying Toruń? I would say then Poznan, you know, some other major cities out there, I would advise you do not jaywalk, because it can get really dangerous, man. So if you're trying to jaywalk, let's say a tram coming past, you know, sometimes trams, they don't stop in an instant compared to cars and all that, right? It takes them time sometimes to stop, so it can be quite deadly and dangerous. So stay on the safe side, and also not to draw unnecessary attention to yourself. Basically, I'll say just stay and wait till, like I say, the green light give you the signal and then you can cross. And I'm pretty sure you're going to look quite, let's say, intelligent, and yeah, the locals are going to give you some respect. Honestly, we're like, yeah, you're a well-mannered traveler, they're going to respect you for that, right? So another thing I'll say when you're in Poland, not to do, it's like, do not walk at night and start feeling unsafe. And I understand if you're coming from most major Western countries, as of now, because of the high cost of living and all that, right? So things are becoming more expensive, and a lot of people who are lazy, they can't find work, or maybe some people who are not even lazy, they find it hard to survive and all that, right? Some people are, let's say, mentally not quite there, and mentally weak as well, so they end up on the streets and they start stealing and start grabbing people's phones, particularly in my city, right? And you see a lot of crime in the Western world, in America, in the UK and all that, right? So if you're traveling to those sort of countries, you'll be vigilant at night. You're probably not going to come outside or go outside and explore, because you're quite scared maybe someone might come and rob you and all that, right? So the thing is, like, when you're in Poland, you don't have to worry about that country. Eliminate all those worry for you, right? It is a taboo for someone to steal there. If you get caught, you can get into a lot of trouble. You're doing any fraud, any scamming, you can get in a lot of trouble. So when you're out there, you don't have to worry. Look your shoulders all the time. At night, it's totally safe for women to travel, to explore. It's by far one of the safest countries in Europe. I mean, honestly, it is up there. You know, when it comes towards the Global Peace Index as well, Poland is ranked very, very high, you know, compared to the UK or America, honestly, man. So I would say you don't have to worry about that when it comes towards safety, right? So another thing I'll say is that when you're in Poland, do not, let's say, criticize their food. You know, I'll say honestly, I've said something wonderful and amazing thing when it comes towards Poland, right? And I've loved it, I love it, and I'll continue to love it. I'm not from Poland, although some people will think I'm paid by the, let's say, tourism board or the government and all that, right? I understand you're speculating, you don't know nothing about me. I'm not being paid by no one. Everything I do on this channel, I fund it, I sponsor myself, you know, so everything is coming from my pocket. So whenever I draw my attention towards a country, I just want a lot of people to know about that place, and then to, like, let's say, to acknowledge Poland as a country that deserve to be talked about, that deserve quality content. So honestly, when you're in Poland, the food, yeah, it can be a little bit, let's say, maybe not my cup of tea, but I don't really mind it. It's edible. I think my favorite, I think easily is called zapakanki. Zapakanki is like a flatbread, cheese on the top, very crispy, and some really good stuff on the top as well. It's very, very yummy, right? I'll say pierogi, I like it, but it's too oily. I don't think that one is for me. But honestly, like, when you're in Poland, not to criticize the food, because the Polish people are very, let's say, very patriotic. They love their country. Anything about the country, they love it. And particularly when it comes towards the food, they are obsessed when it comes towards the food, right? So be careful. If you don't like it, maybe don't voice it out. Keep it to yourself, you understand? So you don't offend them. But honestly, like, to be honest, like, you can voice your opinion what you don't like about it, but it's the way you say it. Be respectful. If you don't like certain things there, be respectful, you understand? So that is very, very key. So when it comes towards the last two things that you should never do when you're in Poland, I'll say LGBTQ. Don't openly talk about this sort of thing, man. For me, I'm a very, let's say, from day one, I'm a very straight kind of guy. I like women from day one. That is in my culture. That's the way I was brought up, you know. Well, then again, I grew up in a society in the West, in the UK. Basically, I'm exposed to people from all cultural background, all religious belief or sexual orientation and all that, right? So I'm totally open towards. I don't really it doesn't really bother me if someone is gay or belonging in the LGBTQ, right? It doesn't really bother me, because I've worked with managers who are gay, co-workers who are gay. It doesn't fuzz me at all, man. As long as you don't bring, let's say, you're not attracted towards me if you're male, I'm perfectly cool with that, right? But I'm totally cool talking to people. In fact, most of the gay people I've chatted to in the past, I've worked with as well, they are fabulous, man. They've been professional, let's say, very kind and nice sort of people, you know, basically. But when you're in Poland, I think it can be a little bit of a topic of maybe a little bit uncomfortable, right? Certain people that may not like you talking about that. You know, some people might not like the idea of let's say mingling and having that kind of conversation, you know. Although it's legal in Poland to be gay, totally legal, and in fact, if you're a person who belongs in the LGBT, or let's say you're bisexual, you can also serve in a hammy. You know, some Polish people don't really mind, especially in cities like Warsaw and Krakow. Those are the major cities where you would tend to see bars, gay bars, and gay, let's say, establishments and also whatever. See gay flags and, I say, pride flag and whatever, right? So, you know, but in my actual culture where I grew up, you know, African culture, in most African countries, it's taboo, it's banned. You know, some countries like Rwanda, they have a law now where if you're caught like spreading or trying to convert someone to be gay, you can face the death penalty. I just feel like it's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit too harsh and too extreme, you know. I'm not scared of the gay community or whatever. No, it's not that. But I just feel like at the end of the day, those people are human beings, right? It's just their sexual orientation maybe might be different to what you believe, but I think every human being deserves a level of respect, a level of I don't focus or pay attention onto those sort of things, you know. It's not a thing that interests me that much, but it's not a thing that really bothers me, really, to be honest, you know. And yeah, so in Africa, especially in my country of Sierra Leone, it's a no-no, it's a taboo. I mean, honestly, it's a taboo, man. You can't do that, you know. And so as in some countries as well in Asia, like Malaysia, let's say Indonesia, mainly Muslim majority countries, they're totally frowned upon that, you know. And but then again, like if you're a gay person, you can always go to this country as long as you don't openly like trying to convert someone or you're behaving in an inappropriate way, you know. And then yeah, I think that also quite similar as well to the sort of the behavior in Poland. So to stay on the safe side, not to talk about anything gay related sort of thing, because the recent history as well when it comes towards LGBT rights in Poland, it's a little bit shaky. So stay from those uncomfortable experiences, and also stay from talking about, let's say, Russia, and yeah, I think yeah, just stay far away from that, right? So finally, the last thing I would say is like never to do when you're in Poland. Oh boy, where should I start? I think language barrier is quite hard in Poland, so definitely do not buy a train ticket. When I mean train ticket, it's like when you're commuting from one city to the other. Let's say you're traveling from one city to the other, so don't buy a train ticket at the station, because the language barrier can be a factor, and most of the people that work at the counter can't speak English. And if you get a ticket from the station there, the ticket will not be in English, it will be in Polish, right? So it can be hard for you to read it, and if you try to get a ticket there, it will take you a bit of some time. It's inconvenient, so I advise you to buy your ticket on the app. You know, it's called the KPK Intercity Rail app, and I would highly recommend you use that. It's really efficient, it's really cool, and you can get your stuff done really honestly. Like, I think it's the best way to travel across Poland, honestly. Like, you know, basically, what can I say? I'll say basically these are the 7 things you shouldn't do when you're traveling Poland. You know, honestly, like, you're gonna have a good time when you're in Poland, right? So I think this is my last video. I know I said it the last time, I said, oh, this will be my last video talking about Poland, but honestly, this will be my last video. I only got a couple of weeks now left here in the UK before I fly to China. So basically, and the series will continue, a proper series where I will travel. I will try to interact more with the locals where I'm going, and then I'm going to create a proper documentary for all the Polish people who have stuck with me over the past 2 months or so. I appreciate you. So now it's a new chapter. You know, I talk about different country, so this time I'll be living in China, in East Asia. And yeah, I know a lot of people have their agenda. They might say, oh, you're going to China, you're black, they're racist there, they're not gonna like you, the CCP or CPC. You know what, I don't